The US Energy Secretary recently called on Eastern and Central European nations to abandon their net zero goals. Michael Mehling is Deputy Director of the Centre for Energy and Environmental Policy Research at MIT.
Well, if you read or listen to his remarks, he emphasizes a few aspects that he sort of characterizes as America's choice and contrasts it with what the European Union is doing. Of course, it's sort of a little bit also a cherry picking. So he's looking at the current administration's priorities in energy policy. And as you've probably seen, they always keep emphasizing affordability, reliability, security. The aspects of like sustainability or environmental dimensions of it are entirely omitted. And that's what he contrasts with what the EU is doing, which prioritizes or puts at least at the same level of priorities or goals the sustainability dimension of it all, reducing greenhouse gases, reducing ambient air pollution, etc. And of course, he then portrays it as the US way is the one that leads to prosperity, lower energy costs, abundant energy, etc., and blames essentially Europe's high energy costs on this alternative choice of looking at climate, looking at environment as a co-equal priority. And one could quibble with that, but, by and large, there are, of course, also some kernels of truth in that.
Well, indeed, he has said that renewable investments weigh on growth, they boost the revenues of foreign companies. Does he have some interesting and important points, and do you think that he has a welcoming audience in Eastern and Central Europe who may agree with this and indeed decides to follow the US, the current US administration, on its so-called energy freedom path?
I think you would find that anywhere in Europe there will always be some constituencies that see the appeal in that promise and that alternative vision for the energy future. And Central and Eastern Europe is probably particularly amenable.
And 100 days in now to Donald Trump's second administration, perhaps it's no real surprise, but he has indeed begun to withdraw the US from the Paris Climate Agreement. There's an expansion of mining and the use of coal being planned, and also an increase in oil and gas.
I would vehemently disagree with that. I think, this is partly where I keep sort of hinting that at the surface level and in the short term, a lot of the messaging that Secretary Wright is bringing to Central and Eastern Europe is really astute, because it ticks certain boxes that are of concern, not just in Central and Eastern Europe, in other parts of Europe too. High energy costs, the impacts on competitiveness, etc. But, if you look at the US, and especially if you look at the local and subnational level where the action is actually happening, investments are continuing. They have slowed down. There's certainly been uncertainty and sort of a wait-and-see attitude. Tariffs will increase the costs of certain technologies. But by and large, the fundamental economics of renewable energy, which just keep declining in cost, no matter what politics tries to do, the technology cost is declining.